Hello everybody, your favorite Spiffy Man 255 here once again with another fantastic observation of the universe. So last week I put out a video on equitable division of labor within a live-in relationship, we'll say a marriage, a cohabitating relationship, something like that. And my very lovely and beautiful fiance sent me an article kind of in response to it. And this article is on the mental load within a household. It's primarily often placed on the mothers. And the mental load is basically this idea that moms are responsible for not only their half of parenting and household duties, but also organizing, reminding, and planning everything else. And so this cartoonist from France drew up a webcomic titled You Should Have Asked that kind of illustrates this point. So we're going to go through this comic and we're going to see what this mental load is all about. And I'm probably going to bitch about it. Let's see. You should have asked. Oh no, look at the mess. Back when I was in my first job, a colleague invited me over for dinner. Hello, hi. So here it looks like you got mom over here with the kids throwing shit. Because kids are assholes, she's cooking dinner, and presumably this is me, quote unquote, this is colleague, mom's colleague, and then here's dad, husband, partner, person. It says, when I got there, she was trying to feed her kids while preparing our meal. It says, have a seat, grab a drink, I'll be right there. Okay. So here's, the kid successfully threw his green shit on the floor, and the other kid is just laying here drunk, it looks like. He's just passing out drunk on the table, and dad's cracking open another beer, and presumably entertaining the guest here. And we got mom looking a little exasperated. Come on, sweetie, make an effort. It looks like something's going on with the pot. It says after a while, the pot started to overflow, and here's dad still entertaining the guest. And everything spilled onto the floor. Oh no! What the hell is she cooking? It's like nothing here, and then it starts to bubble up a little bit, and then it spills over onto the damn floor, like the fucking goo from Ghostbusters 2. What a disaster! What did you do? Says dad, and here's mom, red in the face. Oh man. What do you mean, what did I do? I did everything. That's what I did. Oh. Everything except entertain your guests that you invited to your house, I guess. But you should have asked. I would have helped, he says. So, and I guess presumably this is our author, our narrator, right? So it's a scene that must seem familiar to many new parents. And I thought it said a lot about how things get organized at that stage in our lives. New parents? This kid's passed out drunk on the countertop. How old are these kids? This kid's at least 12. Like, these are not new parents. This should be normal. When a man expects his partner to ask him to do things, he's viewing her as the manager of household chores. So here we got woman, household management project leader, and then we got man as underling. Well, that's an interesting way to project that. So it's up to her to know what needs to be done and when. The problem with that is that planning and organizing things is already a full-time job. And she's delivery in a month, let the developers know, ask the client about bullet point 10 in the file. Shit, it's 7 p.m. At work, once I started managing projects, I quickly stopped participating in them. I didn't have the time. So this is basically saying that if the woman has to be the manager, she doesn't have time to actually do the things, but she's expected to do the things. Okay. So when we ask women to take on this task of organization and at the same time to execute a large portion, in the end it represents 75% of the work. Okay, I've heard this statistic before. It says you didn't do the dishes? Well, you never asked. And I pointed this out in my last video. If you want me to do something, you have to ask me. I'm not necessarily in tune with all the same things you are, right? And it says, feminists call this work the mental load. So the mental load is how basically this idea that the woman has to remember and think of everything and then delegate these responsibilities throughout the household. Which, to me, kind of equates the father with the children on that same level. So it says, the mental load means always having to remember. Remember that you have to add cotton buds to the shopping list. Remember that today is the deadline to order your vegetable delivery for the week. Remember that we should have paid the caretaker for last month's work by now. Okay. So you have priorities in your household that you have to remember. Okay, so what is he thinking of? What are the issues that he has to worry about? That the baby grew another 3 centimeters and can't fit into his trousers anymore, that he needs to get his booster shot, that your partner doesn't have a clean shirt left. Alright, so I guess this is trying to illustrate that there are just so many things that these women have to think about. But what are the men thinking about? Maybe I'll get to that in a little bit. The mental load is almost completely borne by women. It's permanent and exhausting work, and it's invisible. I find that very interesting because I think it's disingenuous. Because this seems to imply that men bear no burden of these thoughts and these prioritizations and these things that need to be done within the household. I will definitely get to that later. So while most heterosexual men I know say that they do their fair share of household chores, he always puts on the washing machine but never hangs the wash out to dry. The sheets could be standing stiff before he thought to change them. He's never cooked a single meal for the baby. Says their partners have rather different perspective. So you got all these women with the kids sitting around in like a little sewing circle, gossip circle here. That's interesting stereotype. But I find it particularly interesting that once again, there's no men here to offer any type of refutation or offer any type of counterbalance to these issues that the women perceive. Let's see, for me, the fact that this load exists becomes obvious when I decide to take care of a simple chore, like clearing the table. Ugh, alright. Well, first off, why don't you make everybody else pick up the own shit that they left on the table? Like that, I think, would be a good start. Let's see, it says, I start by picking something up to put it away. But on the way, I come across a dirty towel that I go put in the laundry basket. Which I find full. Damn. So I go to the washing machine. Alright. And I see the vegetables that I need to put in the fridge. The fuck? The fuck are your vegetables doing on top of your washing machine? I don't get that. That does not seem like the best place for them. But maybe it's because my laundry room is in the basement. Anyway, it says, I'm putting away the vegetables. I realize that I need to add mustard to the shopping list. Okay. And so on and so forth. In the end, I'll have cleared away my table after 2 long hours. Seriously? 2 hours. It took you 2 hours to do this. Maybe I'm missing something here, or maybe you left a bunch of shit out. But let's take a look at this. Okay, you see the table and you grab the fucking book here, right? And you're gonna go put it in the bookshelf. But you see a towel on the floor. Okay, so that takes about, I don't know, 20 seconds, maybe, if you're dicking with your phone while you're doing it. Okay, so you come across a towel, you pick it up, and you take the 10 seconds to walk to whatever room in your house, unless you live in a goddamn castle, to throw it in the laundry basket. And you see the laundry basket's full. Okay, so here we've got like 30 seconds, tops. And then, so you take the laundry basket, and you take it to the washing machine, and you stuff the washing machine full, which takes about, I don't know, we'll say 5 minutes tops. So we're going on 5.5 minutes here. And then you see the vegetables. And you go to put the vegetables away in the fridge, and that should be the longest evolution in this entire process. Which might take, depending on how many groceries you actually have and how you like to organize your kitchen and your refrigerator, it's 10 minutes tops. 10 minutes tops to do all of this, including add the mustard to the shopping list, which takes all of 10 seconds. So what's taking you 2 hours? This is hyperbolic, is what this is. This is bullshit. Because if you ask me to do all this shit, I could get it done in 10 minutes. It might not be done your way. And you might sit there and say, you did that wrong. I'm like, nah, fuck you. I did it the way that I would do it. If you want it done your way, then do it your damn self. I put shit back where it goes. End of story. And it took me a grand total of 10 minutes. Not this 2 hours bullshit. Oh, and then it says, only to find it covered in stuff again later that evening. Okay. So here, yeah, you got the kids' shit. Make your kids pick up their own shit. And what is this, a noose? This woman, they seriously equated your messy table to suicide? That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Let's see, it says, if I ask my partner to clear the table, he'll just clear the table. Well, there you fucking go, right? Like, he did what you asked him to do. Why? How is this upsetting? The towel will stay on the floor, the vegetables will rot in the kitchen counter, and we won't have any more mustard for dinner. Okay, first off, again, this is ridiculous, right? This is just basically saying that men are incompetent. Men have no initiative whatsoever, right? Vegetables will rot on the kitchen counter. First off, your vegetables were over top of your fucking washing machine, okay? We all know this, and we know you're a freak for doing it. It won't have any more mustard, yeah, because it wasn't on the shopping list. But this to me is ridiculous. This to me is basically saying women are so much smarter and show so much more initiative than men. That men just don't do these things, that they don't care, that they're monstrous. Let's see, it's like when my friend Jay, on her way to bed, asked her husband, can you take the baby's bottle out of the dishwasher when it's done? And getting up for the first nightly feed, found the dishwasher open with just the bottle on the counter and everything else still inside. Okay, like, first off, I could get past not emptying the clean dishes out of the dishwasher. Maybe he didn't know if they were clean or dirty. I would assume that they're clean because you asked him to get something out of it to use. So, you know, I can see that as just basic laziness, but he did what you asked him to do. Now, on the other hand, leaving the dishwasher open like that, well, that's just a dick move. Let's see. What our partners are really saying when they ask us to tell them what needs to be done is that they refuse to take on their share of the mental load. And here's woman who appears to be carrying things, and here's dude with, presumably, a laptop in his lap, and says, let me know if you need help. And she looks pissed, right? So this is one of those things where you get this common thing of, I shouldn't have to ask you to help me, you should just do it. But let's back up here. At least this guy is fucking asking, right? At least he's saying, hey, if you need help, let me know. And she could easily, instead of standing there all passive-aggressively and just looking fucking pissed, she could be like, yeah, could you help me right now? I could use a hand. And he'd probably, presumably, be like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he would get off his ass and he would help. And the fact is that he probably notices different shit around that house than she does. And that's the whole point that I'm trying to make here, is that maybe he doesn't notice this shit. Maybe she doesn't notice some shit that he notices around the house. I'm definitely, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. It says, of course there's nothing genetic or innate about this behavior. We're not born with an all-consuming passion for clearing tables, just like boys aren't born with an utter disinterest for things lying around. Well, thank you, comic. I agree. I disagree that there's nothing genetic about this behavior or innate, because it's been very clearly supported and documented that males and females perceive things in different ways. But it's a different video for a different time. It says, but we're born into a society in which very early on we're given dolls and miniature vacuum cleaners, and in which it seems shameful for boys to like those same toys. It says, look at that dainty little boy with his little tea set. You know, kids can play with whatever the fuck they want, I don't care. In which we see our mothers in charge of household management while our fathers only execute the instructions. Honey, can you set the table? Yes, in 5 minutes. And see, and this is another thing, this is a trope, right? If he says in 5 minutes, what's wrong with being like, well, actually, dinner's just about done, could you do it now? You know? What the fuck is he doing? The in 5 minutes rule, you know, give me a second is one thing. I'm doing some shit, give me a second, and then I'll get to it. Like, that's how that interaction should work. But there's nothing wrong with her being like, well, hey, dinner's just about ready, I need the table to be set. And he'd probably be like, alright, cool. It says, and in which culture and media essentially portray women as mothers and wives, while men are heroes who go on fascinating adventures away from home. And here's pregnant lady with the little kid, says, goodbye, my love. And here's adventurer off to save the world. And I got one word for this. Aliens. It says, this conditioning take effect from our earliest years and on into adulthood. Here you got baby girl going to the home. Here you got baby boy going to the factory, right? And if he's going to the factory in a business suit, it makes me wonder what he actually does. It says, and while women are more and more present in the workforce, they still remain the only ones in charge of the household. I disagree. It says, when we become mothers, this double responsibility blows up in our face. 11 days after we go through the ordeal of giving birth, our partner goes back to work. It says, goodbye, my love. Here was with the newborn. And it says, here he is off to save capitalism. And it seems normal to him. Okay, so here's the thing with that. I fully support the idea of American businesses having some form of paternity leave for fathers. Because it's even harder to find that than it is maternity leave for mothers. Right? Most, I can't think of a case that I've heard of really where they don't offer maternity leave for pregnant and newly birthed mothers, but very few places offer paternity leave of any significant amount of time to the father. So I support that. I think it's important that both parents be there in those early stages of the baby's development. However, this guy has got all sorts of new thoughts running through his head when he's got a brand new baby. He's sitting there thinking, if I don't go back to work, I could get fired, or I don't make money, and I've got a new baby, and I've got another kid over here who's a little shithead, and then I've got this wife here who's not working right now because she's on maternity leave for 6 weeks. So, I can't afford to get fired. Do I need to try to work for a promotion? Do I need a new job? Do we need to upsize the house? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? All of these things are forced onto the breadwinner of the household. Because as much as you want to talk about these stereotypes of mom ruling the roost, which I think is a position of power in a relationship, this guy has to worry about making sure that his family is provided for. And those same traditional gender roles affect him just as much as they affect the mother. And so what you're doing is that it's almost like, oh, working women have double the load now, so we have to force double the load on the men as well, instead of trying to promote the idea of, actual equity. But, let's see, it says, during this time, while recovering from our stitches between 2 sleepless nights, we'll be thinking about everything that concerns the baby. Choosing a nanny, buying clothes, medical checkups, preparing meals. And again, meanwhile, Dad's thinking about, how can we afford to pay the nanny? How can we afford to pay for clothes? Is my insurance good enough to cover these medical checkups? Can we afford to prepare meals? Right? This is all the responsibility placed on the traditional breadwinner. Despite the fact whether he is or not, most men kind of feel these instincts once a newborn baby is there. So, it's just this idea of, how am I going to provide for my new offspring to ensure it doesn't die? Right? And this is a very natural instinct in men, typically, on average. It's just this idea of provision and resources for the child and its mother. It says, and once we're back at work, things will get so hellish that it will feel less exhausting to keep doing everything rather than to battle with our partner so that he does his share. Why's it gotta be a battle? Like, in my opinion, if you're battling with your partner, this is something that you should have known about this person. So why all of a sudden now is it a problem? And here she is, I guess, hard-working business mom with the baby. I'll just stop by the supermarket. What is wrong? Is it so difficult to just ask your dude, hey man, I'm doing this shit, can you swing by the grocery store? The list is on the fridge. Or how about, hey, you hold baby, I'm gonna run to the store, right? You can equitably divide this load. And I don't know, it's just, this seems very one-sided to me, and it seems to completely disregard the man's position in this. It says, that's why you find fathers with children who are already a few years old and who still don't know where to buy their clothes, what to feed them, when they need their next vaccination, or even the nanny's phone number. It says, yes, it's me. What should I feed her? Fuck you. Like, in my last video, I brought up this idea of the bumbling idiot father trope, and this is bullshit. I honestly do not know a single father who doesn't know how to take care of their children. I don't know a single father who doesn't know when their kids have a doctor's appointment. Right? If for no other reason than the fact that that doctor's appointment is going to cost them money. I resent the fuck out of this, because this is drawing a straw man of fathers within the household. Absolutely. It's drawing a straw man of fathers being lazy, ineffectual, and completely unhelpful. It is creating this notion that fathers are basically children. And so, of course, there's nothing forcing us to do all this. The problem is that when we stop, the whole family suffers. So women are the saviors of the household. Got it. So most of us feel resigned to the fact that we are alone in bearing the mental load, nibbling away at our work or leisure time just so we can manage everything. It says, so I already know what some people are going to say. It's not true. I take care of half the chores at home. I'm still going to get to that. So in that case, just as well, but try and confirm it with your partner. Oh yeah, because that's right. You got to go ask the boss to give you an evaluation to fucking make sure that you're working to production standards. So if things are like that in your home, it still doesn't change the problem. Statistically, women are still the ones managing household tasks. What tasks? What tasks are they managing? Again, I'll get back to that. According to the French Institute of Statistics, women are still devoting 2.5 times more hours to chores than men. I can't tell if that's 2.5 or 25. It says, and if this gap has been narrowing, it's not because men are doing more, but because wealthier households outsource these tasks, most often to poor immigrant women. We can't really say that's a good solution. Aren't you supposed to be progressive? Isn't it good that we're providing immigrants and women with jobs? I guess we're just not done attacking men for not doing enough. It says, no, for things to change, it seems clear that men have to learn to feel that their home is also their responsibility. For a start, it would be good if fathers insisted on their right to be with their family in the first months of their child's life. I agree. Again, paternity leave is important. I completely support the notion of getting more of it. It says, right now, only feminists are demanding longer paternity leave, and without much success. It's time to take the lead. Well, that's also not true, because I happen to know that men's rights activists are also fighting for paid maternity leave and longer maternity leave. It says it can also help to start from the beginning and divide up recurrent and non-critical chores, even if that means becoming a bit more tolerant of stuff lying around. Yeah, don't put quite so much on yourself, or communicate with your partner and create an equitable division of labor. If you're curious about that, watch my last video. And also, sometimes simply leaving the house without preparing everything beforehand and not feeling guilty about it. Exactly. A role reversal can often be more effective than confrontation. I disagree. You don't need a confrontation or a role reversal. You need a discussion. It says, and of course, raising our children as far away as possible from stereotypes to offer them a fairer future than the one we've got. I still don't understand what's unfair. It says, alright, I could say a lot more, but I'll stop for today. In a future comic, I'll talk about emotional work, which also gets heaped onto women. Until then, take care. I guess women are just the bearers of all burdens in the household. Okay, that's the end of this comic. So, in the midst of this, just by sheer random happenstance, I happened to grab a list of the things that I'm worried about around my household. I'm going to read some shit off to you. So, while this article's sitting there claiming that women are thinking about, putting the mustard on the shopping list and picking up the towel and taking the vegetables off the top of your washing machine and things like that. I have a list of things that I'm worried about around my house. This is stuff that I've been thinking on, I don't know, for about the last 4 or 5 months, and I've been doing them just little by little, over the last few months. But here's some stuff that I still need to do. Seal the windows. The weather sealing around my windows is basically cracked and gone bad. And the house was built in the 60s. It's kind of old. The windows are original to the house, and the weather sealing around them has just gone bad. So those windows need to be sealed. Seal the tile in the tub. It's kind of the same thing. The tile in my bathroom is pretty old. I don't really have enough money to have it replaced or to remodel my bathroom, so I need to seal the tile in the tub. It needs to be regrouted, but, you know, I don't know much about tile work, so I'm just going to seal it. Hole in the basement ceiling. I had a leak in my bathtub underneath, and so I had to pull out some ceiling tiles in the basement and get up there and patch the hole in the pipe that was leaking. And now I need to create an access panel and fabricate it and put it up in the ceiling. Cracking basement door. For some reason, my basement door out in the back, it's developed a big crack in it. Again, I believe it's original to the house, but it's letting the outside world seep into my inside world. So I need to seal that. But before I can do that, out back of that back door, it's all spidery, so I gotta get rid of the spiders before I can do that. So there's that. Doors in the basement addition. Oh yeah, I built an entire room, about a 9.5 foot by 15 foot room in the unfinished part of my basement, and I finished it off so we could have an office space. Right now it's kind of my game room, but yeah, I built an entire room in the basement. There's still just a couple things that need to be done in there. Water line for fridge. We bought a new fridge that's got like an ice maker and a water dispenser on it, but since the house is so damn old, it didn't have a water line run for the fridge, so I gotta do that. Refurbish the wall oven. I got a small wall oven, and it's in the cabinetry. Modern wall ovens won't fit in the hole that this wall oven is in because it's from the early 60s. So the thermal elements are going bad in it, and I need to take it out, completely refurbish it, make sure that the elements are good. If not, I need to replace them. Got to repair the plumbing for my kitchen sink. I've got to panel the outside of the wall of the addition because my fiance said that she didn't like the fact that it was just bare studs, so I got to panel the wall in there. Construct a folding table in the laundry room. She wants a folding table in there, so I have to get some countertop material and make one of those. Attic vent. Right now I just have a turbine vent in the attic, and I've got to replace it with a motorized attic vent attached to a thermostat. You know, you think, and I have way more stuff on this list, and this is stuff that I think about for this house all the time. And I could just as easily say, you know, she walks by those windows all the time and they need to be resealed. She could easily pick up the caulking gun and go ahead and take care of that. But when I say something like that, it seems kind of strange, right? Like this is something that I would typically do because I'm handy around the house, you know, or you would hire a contractor to do if you didn't know what the hell you were doing. But, you know, I could just as easily say that. I could just as easily say, hey, you know, she's walked by this door in the basement with this big-ass crack in it about 100 times. She could have easily taken that wood putty that I bought and filled that crack. You know, after she got rid of the spiders outside, of course. But that doesn't sound right, does it? It sounds perfectly fine to say, oh my God, I can't believe that he didn't empty the dishwasher. But it doesn't sound natural when I say, oh my God, she didn't seal the windows. Right? She didn't replace the weather stripping on the windows. She didn't install the vent fan in the attic. Right? If I were to say that in kind of an upset or a chastising manner, that would not make sense. And I don't understand where it comes from that they believe that women are the only ones who plan anything, who think about anything, about any of this. Like, here's my question. If we go way back up to the top here, and she's yelling at this dude because she's had to do everything, you know, I have one simple question. What does he do? Did he just get off a 16-hour shift at the steel mill, which is basically the closest thing you can get to hell on earth? Like, it doesn't tell us. It explains nothing. Really, what you would expect out of something like this is that they're just kind of bourgeois. Right? That this is, you know, your standard maybe working class or middle class family where You got power feminist mom here who's doing everything, and then you've got the straw man of this idiot who doesn't do anything and has to be treated like this drunk ass kid here. And so I resent this entirely, because this comic is basically coming out and saying men don't do shit and women are better. Right? This is what it's saying to me. And it does nothing to address the issues that men have to face or the mental load that men take on in a household. You know? Yes, in 5 minutes. You know, what is this guy thinking about? He's reading a paper. Is he reading a paper about, you know, something recently that's happened that could affect his family? Is he reading a paper about how the stock at his company just fell 15 points and he might get laid off tomorrow? You know, things like that. If you're looking at traditional gender roles between these two humans, then that's something that this guy, who has been designated as breadwinner, would seriously worry about. And that is his part of the mental load. You know? And another stereotypical, standard, traditional version of masculinity says that he needs to be stoic about it. He can't be upset. He can't be worried. He can't be anxious. He can't tell his wife about it lest she find him inferior and leave him for a superior man. Right? So he's got to be tough. So this idea that men run off to save the world, basically this idea that women stay home and men go, is bullshit. Because the fact is that women work just as much as men now. Despite what professions they're in, you know, off to save capitalism. No, he's off to ensure that his family has food to eat and a place to live. While his wife, who presumably works, because that seems to be a theme of this comic, is allowed to, has the luxury of staying at home and taking care of the children. And to me, it's interesting when you flip the script like that. Now, I'm not one to sit here and say, you know, even if they're stay-at-home moms, I'm not one to sit here and say being a stay-at-home mother is not difficult. But the fact of the matter is that you don't trivialize equitable roles, equitable contributions in the relationship and in the household. So, when you look at this and you say, this father is basically a 10-year-old who doesn't know anything about his own children, who doesn't know what he should feed his daughter. It's bullshit. And you know it. You absolutely know it. You know men are not this stupid. Anyway, I think that's where I'll end it. I'm getting a little too worked up here. You know, if you agree, cool. Give me an upvote, downvote, whatever. If you disagree especially, leave me a comment down below. And we'll have a discussion about it. I think it could be very interesting. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this around with as many people as you could possibly imagine. And I'll catch you guys next week.